Welcome to the Child Discipleship Podcast by Awana, lasting faith in Jesus for every child. I'm Matt Markins, joined by
Mike Handler. Yeah. How are you?
Good to have you back.
Good to be back.
Well, hey, Mike, we're going to be talking today about the side-by-side comparison of relevance versus relationship. It's going to be a good conversation. Ready?
Yeah, can't wait to dig in.
All right, let's get into it. Okay, Mike, let's talk about relevance. But I want to start off by asking you, just for a moment, you're such a family man. You're such a good father and husband. Just pretend for a second you did not have to weigh all of their needs and concerns, and you had $500 you could spend just on yourself. What are you going to spend it on?
Yeah, it's so hard to sort through the list because I'm like, okay, they need this and they need that, and I've got 4 kids.
No. Just
I
for a second.
I know.
Just for a second.
Yeah. First thing that comes to my mind. Well, maybe the second thing that comes to mind. The first thing was like shoes, but I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
That sounds petty.
Well, thank you. That hurts. That really hurts.
The first thing that comes to my mind after that would be like a pizza oven, like a good, like a cool. Like a good pizza oven, like an uni or whatever, like a pizza oven that we can just enjoy. Yeah. I love food. Yeah.
Food experiences are great.
Yeah, they get people around. Yeah, any rate. Yeah. What about you?
I think for me, we've been wanting a sound bar. I say, again, this is just for me, but it's also appropriated, just like the pizza oven would have been for all of y'all. But we've been wanting a sound bar for the TV. Yeah. We use the frame TV, which I really like because
we've got one of those.
I like being able to show the art. It looks kind of nice in the living room. But the sound, let's be honest, is terrible.
Yeah, we could get into a whole thing about how the new TVs have obliterated good sound.
We need to mature the system. But here's my next question, follow-up question. Like, what would that have been a decade ago? Like, what would you have said you wanted to spend that on?
Yeah, I don't think consumer-grade pizza ovens existed a decade ago, perhaps.
I'll go for it. Like, for me, it would have been totally shoes. It would have been exclusively
decade
shoes.
Ago. Yeah, I probably would have done, some sort of piece of technology or something along the line. Yeah, something like that. But it
certainly wouldn't have been the same technology as today.
No, not at all.
It changes so fast.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think what we're discussing here is what the relevance of what I wanted a decade ago is not quite the same as what it is now. Even if I would have bought those Jordans 10 years ago, they would be cracking. They would be like brittle and falling apart by now.
Knowing you would have kept them well.
I do keep good care of my shoes, but those things, even in a box, they break down over time.
For sure, yeah.
So let's get into this conversation of relevance. So I was curious, like, what's the dictionary definition of the word relevance? It's the quality or state of being closely connected to or appropriate. So, okay, you and I like to travel. We've gone to Africa. We've gone to Europe. You spend a lot of time in Europe because if you don't know this, folks, Mike Handler also leads Awana Europe. It's one of your side jobs.
Yeah, just something I do as a hobby,
so
really.
In addition to being the Chief Innovation Officer, he's actually building up strong leadership in Europe, and Awana Europe is growing, but that's neither here nor there. But let's pretend, Mike, you and I, we're going to go to Germany together.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
fun.
We're like going to be there for 10 years. Like, it's going to be a long
Wow, we're
trip.
not going to Germany. We're moving to Germany together.
Our families are coming.
I would have packed different. Okay, yeah.
So our families are with us.
Sure.
We don't want to be irrelevant in the sense of we're not closely connected and we're being inappropriate. Like, we want to be relevant in the sense that we're connected. We understand the culture. We understand the language.
I would add to the relevance conversation with that too. It's not as though we want to be cliche relevant either.
Yeah.
When you say we're going to Germany together, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go buy Lederhosen. Well, that would be kind of cliche relevant in terms of like trying to apply that to me per se.
So what I just want to, like, table stakes, what I want to establish, we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of relevance, especially as it relates to discipling kids and children's ministry, relevance compared to relationship. We're not talking about relevance in the sense of being irrelevant, like we're not connected, we're not appropriate. Of course, we want to be baseline relevant with kids. We're not talking about that kind of irrelevance.
This isn't the episode on Footloose, is what I hear you saying.
Yes, exactly.
For Gen Xers and above.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. I mean, because the fact of the matter is, there is actually no greater relevance than being relational.
Yes.
here's the difference in some regards. Relevance is a continually shifting perspective. You know, like,
it's good language.
Like what's relevant 10 years ago, to use your illustration from the beginning, isn't necessarily relevant today.
Well, what you're doing is you're pointing out universal relevance, right? Like the French or the German language 10 years ago, obviously, Mike, would have been every bit as relevant now as it was then. So that's universal, unchanging relevance, right?
Certainly.
But there's some kind of relevance that's fleeting. And I know where you're about to go next, but let me give one quick example first.
Yeah.
In children's ministry, there was a trend that really popped up somewhere circa 2010. And the trend was, if you could just make your kids' ministry like Disney, like then you were going to become...
greatest hour of the week.
Yeah, you're going to become more relevant. You're going to make kids' ministry the greatest hour of every child's week, which, by the way, I am pro making kids' ministry the greatest hour of everyone's week.
I think it would be a crime to not have kids enjoy going to church.
Correct.
Right?
Kids ministry should be the greatest hour of every. Church should be great for kids.
Yeah.
So, but what happened is there was this story that we were telling ourselves that if we could make our children's ministries more like Disney, make the environments more like Disney, make the way we tell story more like Disney, that there was going to be this great childhood spiritual formation renewal. And it didn't happen. Like, show me one research project where they've studied, if you make your kids' ministry more like Disney, you're going to produce these resilient disciples, and it didn't happen.
You thought you knew where I was going to go, but I'm actually going to go a little bit different.
I don't.
Here
Okay, I love it.
Yeah. We'll get to where you thought I was going to go.
Okay, great.
What we rehearsed hours and hours and hours of time.
We are so disciplined, very prepared for this show. Yes.
It reminds, what you just said there reminds me of a quote from that, or a story rather, that John Tyson shared at our most recent Child Discipleship Forum. So that would have been Child Discipleship Forum 2025. If you're new to this podcast or to this series, the Child Discipleship Forum, or CDF as we call it, is a gathering that we host mainly here in the Nashville area, actually.
Yep.
We bring together children's ministry leaders, children's pastors, church staff, even parents who want to be kind of more highly involved in the spiritual formation of their children, the faith formation of their children. And we host conversations at the crossroads of children, church, and culture.
Yep.
We'll hard sell this some other time.
Yeah, but you've done a great job.
Thank you so much.
I'm registering now.
Yeah. Well, it's sold out in person for 2026.
Oh, man,
but you can join online. We'll talk later about that.
Okay.
All that to say, this past year when we had John Tyson with us, he's a friend of the ministry. John talked about kind of this ministry that he had just seen, where the children's ministry had a petting zoo as a part of their ministry.
Yeah.
And as we think about kind of relevance, as we think about kind of the latest, greatest, the coolest, I mean, it is pretty mind-blowing to think about having like an emu as a part of your ministry.
Who wouldn't want that?
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
That would be like the greatest hour of a kid's week.
Yeah.
But is there a child who's like, if only they had an exotic bird, I would put my trust in Jesus as my Lord and Savior.
But because that didn't happen, I walked away.
Exactly. Because there were no, flightless birds, of giant proportion. Yeah. There's no way Jesus exists.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of when myself and Ron Hunter with D6, back when I was working with him about 15 years ago, he and I, we toured a church that everyone would know the name of it it's one of those household names if I were to share the name. We toured a church. The facility was so spectacular. Like literally all of the art and the props were all created by a Disney team of Disney artists. So it was the best of the best. And when I walked out of that church, I looked at Ron in sarcasm and said, if I was a kid in that church, it's so amazing. I don't even know that if I would see my need for Jesus. That's how amazing it was. But it's not only the wealthy mega churches that have gone this direction. Like this type of thinking, we have to make our church more like Disney, more fantastical. Again, what's the motivation? We want to tell better stories. We want kids to have beautiful, imaginative environments. Mike, let me affirm, those are not bad motivation.
Creativity is not bad. Belonging is
great.
Not bad.
Good.
A desire to want to be a church, not bad.
But let's talk about the shadow side of this pursuit of relevance.
Well, the fact of the matter is if you're only ever pursuing relevance, it's like chasing the wind.
Yeah.
you're never actually going to catch it for a long enough time for it to be sustainable. Informing Faith, quoted here is Brett McCracken, who is an author of another book called Hipster Christianity: When Church and Cool Collide. That probably came out in...
I think it's like 10 or 15 years old. Hipster Christianity is not a new book.
Yeah. I don't know if it's that old, but it's not not like brand new.
Yeah,
no one,
got
it. No one's taking the wrapping off.
Check me in the
right
show
now.
notes, I'm sure.
It will be in the show notes. Any rate, he talks about the fact that cool Christianity is, if not an oxymoron, at least an exercise in futility. Again, that chasing the wind type of thing. A relevance-focused Christianity sows the seeds of its own obsolescence. Rather than rescuing or reviving Christianity, hipster faith, as Brett calls it, shrinks it to the level of consumer commodity, as fickle, fleeting as the latest runway fashion. Man, we talk about trends and fads, and so oftentimes as we just kind of pursue relevance in our churches, it's just like faddy, F-A-D-D-Y, Christianity.
Yeah.
It's just like trendy stuff, and trends don't last.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got 3 teenage daughters. I can go on and on about trends and fads for a long time and show you closets full of clothes that were here today and uncool tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? Because if that's our target as it relates to our churches and ministries, we're creating a kind of an unsustainable, obsolescence-based target.
Well, you said it a moment ago. It's a chasing after the wind. And by the way, Hipster Christianity, which came out in 2010.
So 15 years old. Yeah, 16 years old. Yeah, good job.
By the way,
good job.
For those of you online, you really got to check out this picture of Brett McCracken. We got to show that. That's a great... Speaking of hipster Christianity, he is the epitome of a hipster Christian.
That's good hair
that's
right
amazing.
there.
We like Brett a lot. Hopefully this will get to him and he will speak for us at the Child Discipleship Forum. We'd love that.
I don't think he could find any more value in what we're ascribing to him right now.
I think he will really appreciate this. Yeah.
We all wish we had that hair though again.
Oh man, that was killer. Early 2000s.
Yeah.
The aughts, as I say.
The
cool
aughts,
kids. Yeah.
At any rate, when we value relevance over relationship, what we're really saying is that we're valuing the experience rather than what the experience should yield. It used to be, and Matt, you and I are about the same age. It used to be, you're quite a bit older though. It used to be the fact that when you were doing children's or youth ministry, all you needed to do was be able to have a pizza party, have a couple good talks on a couple good things, a couple of video games, and that
t-shirts.
was like the coolest thing, right? Yeah, cool t-shirts,
Christian music.
Absolutely, yeah. Little audio adrenaline pumping in the background.
Let's go.
And, some pepperoni pizza, and it was like that was at least youth night, if not even youth and children's night.
Totally.
So before we move on, I do want to just say, it is a lot harder these days.
Yeah, it's a different ballgame.
To be able to speak toward the things of culture. Like, if you're in children's and youth ministry, hear us when, like, all joking aside, you have to do more these days than ever before. You not only have to be able to relate to the children and youth that you're serving and leading, but you have to be up on so much.
It's more complex and sophisticated than culture in the U.S.
And
was
it's like
15 years ago.
Faster moving.
When Hipster Christianity was published. Yes.
Thank you, Matt. You are
You're
right.
welcome. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. But it's so much faster moving, so much more complex, to your point. So don't hear us dogging on relevance
No.
from a standpoint of saying, you just need the Bible and good friends and nothing else.
Okay, well, let's go back to the question from previous episode, right? We're not saying that this old city of relevance has no place.
Yeah.
We're asking
that's true.
to what degree should this influence the map of the future? So
Yeah.
even cool relevance, we're not saying cool relevance has zero value on the future map. You're probably going to want to wear halfway stylish clothes. You're going to want to do some fun stuff at church. Okay, great. That's some amount of cool relevance may be fantastic. The question is, are we going to weight it the same in the future as we've weighted it in the past?
Yeah, this is good, Matt. I think we need to separate the conversation from that of contextualization.
Yeah. Yep.
to that of enculturation.
Yep. That's good.
You know, the gospel, one of the most beautiful aspects of the gospel, it's been contextualized into so many cultures, so many settings. It doesn't change the message. It doesn't change who Jesus is. It doesn't even necessarily change the application.
Yeah.
But it makes it pertinent to the people who it's ministering towards.
Yeah.
Whereas if we're just chasing relevance.
Well, yeah. It reminds me of that quote, what you win them with is what you win them to, which totally reminds me of that Disney quote that I think is at the bottom of that page too. So.
Yeah, since you're queuing that up, I'll just read it out here. So one of our friends, Mark Sayers, pastor of Red Church in, I were to say it like an Australian, Melbourne.
Australia, yeah.
Yeah. He talks about the fact that, like, you know, when we chase relevance, we are going to be a church that's continually changing with the culture. Let me just read it here from where we kind of have it in the book. As Mark's talking about this, he talks about if we're not careful, the major drivers of our methodology within the church can become edutainment focused, consumeristic, materialistic, and over preoccupied with relevance. So what does that lead to? What it leads to is this. So instead of leveraging the thinking of Disney as a tool or a resource to become more effective at engaging children for the gospel, again, engaging children, good.
Yeah.
You know, but instead of it just using it as a tool, we simply end up becoming Disney. We're scratching our heads wondering, is this even working? Are we placing far too much effort in trying to be relevant?
Yeah.
So what you win them with is what you win them to.
Yeah. Again, so to summarize, we want to be relevant in the sense that we're appropriate, we're connected, we're speaking the language, we're communicating well. But this pursuit of what Brett McCracken calls hipster Christianity or cool Christianity, it can be a chasing after the wind. No amount of new children's ministry team t-shirts and new environments and more resources in making the environment as cool as possible. We can spend so much time doing that and then sit back and ask ourselves, well, did that actually translate into lasting faith in Jesus and the children? There's really not a lot of evidence that shows that that's the case. So again, we're not saying those things are bad.
No.
We're asking to what degree should the weight of those things be in the future. So let's do a side-by-side comparison of relevance with relationship. We're going to move into relationship now. So we've said in a previous episode, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Adam and Eve walked with God. They were relational. They walked in his presence. Now, through their own rebellion, came sin and the fall of Adam and Eve and the fall of all humanity since then. And the whole Old Testament is pointing to Jesus. And Jesus came, Emmanuel, God, what? God with us, relational. He came to be with us. He spent time around the campfire. He taught the Old Testament scrolls, the Torah. He just spent time with the disciples, time with Gentiles, time with the Jews. He was so relational, and he came to rescue us and to redeem us on the cross. Why? So that we could be reconciled to God, back with relationship. So, I mean, I don't need to keep going, but the gospel in the Bible is a story of relationship. It's about reconciling our hearts with God. And so we know that if I were to say to you, Mike, or any of our listeners, who was that one person? Was there one person who really made a difference in your faith journey, or how you came to Christ, or how you grew as a young disciple or a disciple earlier in your journey? And it's not hard to look back and say, yeah, there was a person. Matter of fact, there were 2, 3, 4, maybe a dozen people that made a difference. That's because relationship in the beginning, eternity past, God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit were relational even before there was an earth, before there was an Adam and Eve. So relationship is critical to children's ministry, to child discipleship. I want to point out a particular data point that we discovered in some research. We have this book we mentioned in previous episodes called Children's Ministry in a New Reality by the Barna Group and Awana. It's basically a pretty massive, it's the largest children's ministry research project commissioned by the Barna Group in at least a decade. So out of all the insights that came out of this project, this is probably one of the ones that leapt off the page the most. And it's about relational connection between loving, caring, trained adults at your church and children. So here's what we discovered. 2 in 5 children in children's ministries in the United States have a meaningful relationship with an adult at that church. I don't know why they just said 5 instead of just 10. I think that would have been easier. But so essentially 40%, almost, it's actually 39%, almost 40% of the children in the United States who attend church have an adult other than their parents that they have a meaningful relationship with. Okay, so that's the good news.
Yeah.
Now, the bad news is 61% do not. Now, for those of you who are watching this, the slides that they're going to put up on the screen after this is where it gets really exciting. Like, what makes this data even more insightful is when you look at the cross-tabulation or the drill-down statistics that the kids who have a relationship with a loving, caring adult compared to those who don't, they read the Bible more, they enjoy going to church more, they understand the gospel and the big picture of the Bible, they memorize the Bible, their child has a friend at church, church matters to their child. We could keep going and going and going. Every single data point, many of them are double or even triple. Like, for example, this one right here, it says they're being inspired to live generously based on the example of others, 77% compared to 34%.
That's amazing.
So the point, if you can see it visually, you get it. But if you're listening, the point is kids who have an adult other than their parent at their church community that they love, they trust, they feel like they're safe and they belong, those kids are more likely to step forward and to grow in their faith and to participate in the activities of the church.
So what I think we can say with a good deal of confidence here, Matt, is the fact that relationships are like the accelerant or the amplification of what's happening in the church, whereas relevance is almost a diminishing type of return as it relates to kind of that same type of thing. For example, like those loving, caring adult leaders within a local congregation, they're the ones who are modeling consistently, faithfully, the behaviors, the attitudes, the actions, the kind of like the essence of what it is that doctrine might be teaching. They're the living, breathing examples.
Yeah.
That's relationship, right? That it's amplifying the truth that we're learning. Whereas like if we're just focused on relevance, it's almost like kind of a whole all show, no go type of thing in that regard, you know, because it's only when this doctrinal truth is kind of greeted with a just-in-time, very cool application or, kind of illustration, if you will.
Yeah. It reminds me, the power of relationship reminds me also of a study that was commissioned by Harvard, especially the Harvard Center for the Developing Child. And they studied 2 groups of children. All the children, both groups, have gone through some form of trauma. Mm-hmm. But what they noticed is that there were certain kids who went on to have productive, thriving, successful lives and others who did not. So think of metaphorically like all the children fell down, but some of them got up and others just couldn't get up again. So what happened was they realized the one uniting variable of all the kids who went on to thrive is that they had access to a loving, caring adult on a consistent basis. What does that tell us? That tells us the power of relationship is the core conduit to thriving. Now, this is secular science. You could call this just commonplace, general marketplace science. Now, apply that to what we already know from the Barna Group. Apply that to what we already know about the Bible, what we already know about God and Jesus and the power of the Holy Spirit. And we're meant to be relational, and that discipleship is relational. It just further validates through social science the power of discipleship. And again, I think relevance, to be clear, it is a tool in our tool belt. Even cool Christianity type, it is a tool in our tool belt. But to what degree and what weightedness as we compare it to we have to have a relational culture. So, we might, as we think about the future of our ministries, right? Like, have some discussion around to what degree do we continue to put more energy into some of these pursuits?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like saying, well, kids want to have fun, kids want to play games. Okay, I can go for that.
Totally.
But what I also know is that kids are looking for meaning, and kids are looking to be engaged. Sometimes that engagement might be something you would consider goofy and fun, sometimes that engagement might not be considered something goofy, but it's keeping that child's mind stimulated, their heart engaged. And so we need to think of it all through the conduit of relational connection, not simply through the connection of fun or entertainment or relevance, but more on how is it connecting them to loving, caring adults, and how are they being engaged?
I want to say something too that you brought up earlier. I want to kind of get back to here. You know, Jesus came in a context and a culture that he was actually relevant to.
Most certainly.
You know, like the parables he told, the way in which he lived his life, the relationships that he had, they were founded in a nature of being relevant to that culture.
Totally.
Jesus didn't come as an alien in a world where he couldn't relate to anybody. It was the relevance that he had that actually made those relationships possible in some regard.
Yep.
But he didn't stop there.
Correct.
You know, he went above and beyond. I mean, to the point where he's talking to a Samaritan woman at the well, you know, and his disciples are like, what are you doing here?
That almost goes into irrelevant. They would have said maybe that's inappropriate. Like,
exactly. This is beyond the cultural norms.
Yes.
Like, you should not be doing this. And yet, even in that, Jesus relationally tracks with her.
So interesting.
You know, and it's just like, man alive, this is where the gospel rubs shoulders with our reality in that regard. And I don't think, if you're walking away from this episode hearing, well, I shouldn't do fun or cool things, you've heard the wrong thing.
Not what we're saying.
You know,
no, it's a weightedness conversation, not a do or don't conversation.
Yeah, it's the emphasis on the syllables type of thing, right? We're saying don't start and end with cool and relevant. Allow them to flavor your ministry, but man, there's no substitute for relationship.
Nope.
In fact, if you focus on relevance too much, you're actually going to alienate those who aren't considered cool or in or whatever else.
Yeah.
And that's opposite of the gospel in that regard.
Okay, so let's summarize. I'm going to read something, Mike, that comes from Forming Faith. By the way, we've mentioned that twice. It's a book called Forming Faith, Discipling the Next Generation in a Post-Christian Culture. We'll put it in the show notes. Feel free to check it out. But we get into this in that book. I'm going to read two sentences from that book to kind of maybe summarize. And we probably are going to read this in the next episode as well, because we're going to get into some similar themes. But here it goes. If our primary investment in children, the most vulnerable among us, is in protecting and entertaining them, we will form within them a likely safe yet fragile foundation. However, if our primary investment in the most vulnerable among us, again, children, is in protecting and forming them, we will become craftsmen who shape a generation whose inner spiritual resilience is so compelling that future communities will grasp at their Christ-like beauty. What are we describing here? We're describing formation. We put a lot of energy in protecting children. That's table stakes. We have to put energy into protecting them. But this cool Christianity, hipster Christianity, and making our children's ministries more like Disney, that's only going to get us so far. That's important. It might be a tool in your tool belt. I can affirm that, but that's not only going to get us so far. We have to be focused on formation, which is child discipleship and relationship. You said the word earlier. It's a catalyst to forming lasting faith in Jesus.
Yeah. So if we were to boil it down to one thing, I think our prayer would be the fact that you, children's ministry leader, children's ministry director, parent, pastor, whomever you might be, that you're not going to be the coolest. You're not going to be the most on trend. It's just not going to work. 6'7" will eventually wear itself out, and saying it will make you uncool, as cool as it made you, a couple of weeks ago or whatever. There is no substitute for authentic relationship.
That's so true.
There is no substitute for seeing a child, knowing their name, allowing them to know that they matter, no matter what brand of sneaker they wear or what the latest fashion or trend is. Man, the heart of a child is, like Matt has said, looking for meaning, looking for a place to belong, looking for a place to connect. And you, through your relationship with them, can actually connect them to Jesus, who sees them, knows them, and loves them, not in spite of, but because of who they are.
So in a previous episode, we mentioned that the first thing a leader does is a leader identifies reality. You got to identify reality. So what we've been doing here is we're looking at the old map, we're evaluating it, we're identifying our realities, we're asking to what degree should these cities on the old map be weighted in the future? Like if we're going to chart forward to build a new map of child discipleship, which is actually an ancient map, what of these cities, what of these investments do we need to carry with us into the future? So we were evaluating relevance today. On our upcoming episodes, we're going to keep drilling into some of these cities on the old map, and we're going to ask ourselves, do we want to take these with us into the future? And if so, how much influence should they have on the future of child discipleship and children's ministry? So, hey, when you disciple a child, you are doing the most important work on the planet. Keep it up. God bless, and we'll see you soon.
Take care.